If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.
Welcome to Building Resilience. I'm Jose Pereira, your host. This is the place where true leaders are forged, where stories of adversity turn into lessons of strength, and where faith, courage, and resilience come alive. Each week we bring you voices that inspire, challenge, and equip you to lead with an unbreakable spirit. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and it begins right now.
Today, I'm going to have a very special guest. This is a show where we showcase people that have gone through adversity, but they have tried, because this is what this is about, how you can build resilience. So my guest of today, I always mention how I get connected to the guest. So in this case, Heather, I got connected through my good friend, Marlene Foster, that she is a publisher, promoter and of book, very involved in promoting authors. She's a beautiful soul. I met Marlene like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. I had 3 years that I came back from my hostage situation. So I met her very soon, maybe almost two or 3 years. And we got connected, but she came back a couple of months ago and said, "Hey, Jose, that now that I see that you're promoting your book, why don't we prepare a book challenge?" And we did the book challenge, and Heather was one of the winners of the book challenge. I offered that the winner of the book challenge, we will do several things. Because we want to showcase the authors, and one of the things is showcasing her expertise. So without no further ado, I'm going to try to introduce Heather. She's the CEO and the founder of the Brave Inspires Brave Global Movement. We're going to talk about what is that. She's an award-winning social impact entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a changemaker, a human rights and mental health advocate, and a disabled law enforcement officer. I got surprised when I saw your videos and your photos as a law enforcement. I want to talk about that because, that's very interesting story. And she served several decades in the Canadian police as an officer. So she has a lot of experience in that area. Well, without no more further ado, Heather, the mic are you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to meet you and to be here, Jose. And what an amazing introduction. And I'm such a, I don't know what to use the word, fan of your work and your leadership, but it's been an honor to be able to be in that book challenge that Marlene Foster created, and to be here on your podcast now. And I've read your book, and it's really an incredible journey of so much transformation, faith, and hope. And so a little bit about myself. You shared, I'm the CEO of Brave Inspires Brave. It's a global movement. And with that, we are supporting and inspiring and building brave leaders of today and tomorrow. And so if that's through adversity, through challenges, we want to build and support and inspire you to new leadership opportunities and also post-traumatic growth. And we have a special focus on law enforcement, military members, veterans, and their families who are transitioning from service into out of service, to be able to support them in their transition to post-traumatic growth.
But your movement, you handle it like a business or like a nonprofit?
Yes, it is a social impact business. That's right.
Okay. And have you thought creating the nonprofit associated to that business?
Actually, originally when it started, I didn't know if I should create a nonprofit or a business. And there was some challenges with creating the nonprofit within the state that I was in at the time. I didn't have a lot of support and didn't have a lot of knowledge about the nonprofit area. So I with those challenges showed me that they were signs that maybe I should, go the route of being an entrepreneur and being able to rebuild myself and learn and be able to work again. Because there was a time that I was told that by medical professionals I'd never be able to work again due to the trauma that I had experienced. And so it was almost as if I had to take, the fear of working again and overcome that fear by making it a business and becoming an entrepreneur.
Okay, it's interesting. Yeah, you have to guide your life according to what God is indicating to you. So you talk about post-traumatic events, and you talk about human rights. That is a very interesting thing. So where does the human right come for that? Law enforcement, or you have some um, connection with human rights organizations?
No, actually, so I was working as a law enforcement officer. I started with the RCMP at the age of about 21, 22 years old. And then I worked for the Toronto Police Service, which is the largest police
I saw
service
that
in
you come from a
Canada.
family of law enforcement officer. Your dad was so
Yes.
okay.
Yes, my father worked for the Toronto Police for 16 years. He was a homicide detective. And then after that, he went on to work in government investigation bodies in different fields within our province here in Canada. So as a young girl, I was always trying to listen to what work he was doing. And unfortunately, I was involved in some way back in the day of an incident that had happened where a young girl was sexually assaulted and murdered. And so back in the day, they were using all kinds of different modalities to be able to catch, those that were committing these crimes. And I was kind of placed in a park on an anniversary of the incident to see if anyone would approach me. And so I think I just had this resilience since the beginning. And, we don't do those kinds of things now in law enforcement, but it was always in me to want to be a law enforcement officer. And there was no pressure from my family to become that. It was just something that I felt that that's the path I needed to take. And so it was my dream to be a law enforcement officer. I really excelled in the field and was able to overcome, all the challenges that we face in training and then on the road. And so I didn't see myself doing anything else in my life. That was the road. There was no other indications that I would be doing anything else. So, it took some time when that transition presented itself. And so the human rights side of it came in when I was working in the detective's office, and I started noticing how community members, females coming in that were reporting sexual assaults, and how detectives were responding, male detectives were responding to these incidents, and not understanding, all the different perspectives and insights as to why a victim may be responding in such a way or not responding in such a way, and just their not wanting to be interested in those specific crimes. I can say that for sure. And so you could see things that were being missed. And I started also noticing it within my workplace, other police women, how they were experiencing sexual harassment within our workplace, and then reflecting upon myself and really noticing, I've been a victim of this too for so long, but really not wanting to go down that road, like
Mhm.
really just wanting to stay in the role as a police officer and protecting the people and serving the people, and not seeing myself as someone who needed help. I had been groomed to understand that this was the culture in policing or in workplaces in general. And so eventually that toll really, started showing up in my body and physically. And so I eventually was being stopped from positions. And I had put in a complaint. About a supervisor specifically, one supervisor at the time. And then I noticed the response that I got from the internal investigations. I was sent to go work for a female officer at homicide when the investigation started, and she started degrading me as a female police officer on the homicide
Wow.
investigation. So that didn't break me enough. I was then sent to undercover drugs, and I did not want to go work there. That was not my passion. And I was supposed to actually want to follow my father's footsteps and become a homicide detective. And so I went to the drug squad being told that's where I needed to go by the boss that oversaw everything, that was actually a part of the problem, the orchestrator that was holding all this kind of culture within policing in my station. And at that time, I went to the drug squad and I
So
excelled.
you
I did.
entered in the drug squad. Wow, it was really risky for you as a woman, no?
The team was really supportive. I got, such a supportive team, and the guys on the team, we really worked well together, and I did really well, and they wanted me on their team full time. But the orchestrator, the boss, the top boss back at the station that was actually trying to punish me, realized, no, she's doing well, she's excelling. This is not what we want. We wanted her to break. So a lot of the police women that come forward, I had noticed they would do things to make sure that they would leave. Either they would get out of policing entirely, or they would go to another station
But
and be
why they
moved.
didn't like the women in that division, or what happened?
They wanted to keep the status quo of
Ah,
the
okay.
yeah, the sexual harassment, the sexual assault, everything was being, um, buried. And if you didn't want to put up with it, then you were not going to be working there.
Wow, wow. Let me tell you something, because I'm trying to think, because now you're a female, you're an undercover officer. So what you did, you tried to convince the drug dealers that you were part of them, or how it worked?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know of these things about
no.
the movies, so I see the movie, a lady in a bar,
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely I had to drive, and I had to go buy drugs. I had to gain their trust. I had to,
Wow.
you know, um start a relationship, like, over the telephone. I had to show that I needed the elements of what they had. And I kind of actually, like, I grew up around in a small town where there was a lot of drugs, and I kind of went back to that mindset when I would see others and how they would behave and how they would act. And that's the front I put on, is that I
But you
remembered
are
what
a
I
risky lady, my friend. I cannot
it
imagine.
was very risky. It was, but you know what the sad part is that I was safer, I felt there, than I was back at my police station, where there was all kinds of, people, supervisors, sexually harassing
So
and
you prefer to be with this guy, with that police officers? Talk a little bit more about that.
the guys on my team at Drug Squad, it's different for everyone. They had my back, and they were not behaving in the way that I had experienced at the other station. They were
Wow.
respectful, and they were supportive, and we there could not be any room for that type of behavior, or it became a safety risk for everyone. And so they knew that, and so they were always just really focused and really responsible in that way. And I don't think they understood why I wasn't allowed to stay full time, why they weren't releasing me from, the station. And even though, they were short women in the drug squad, even though, these were really high of importance. One of the investigations I was on during that time was actually the mayor of our city, which was quite public, was being investigated for crimes. And I was on that team that was working during those times. And I saw and heard things that, weren't sitting well with me. And they also, led back to the same orchestrator and the same boss that was, trying to control my life and of others in that police department. I know one of my colleagues, female officers, was being told she needed to have sexual relations with
Wow.
su with supervisors to be able to, get a promotion. And so I started looking up the chain, and I would see, what it was like. How were those female officers at the top of the chain acting? What were they saying? How were they portraying themselves? How did they, I said, no, I don't want to get there. That is not
And they did
who I am.
that type of proposition to you?
In different many ways, yes. I do recall my superintendent, again, the orchestrator of much of this. I went to a drug conference, and at that time I was a detective, and that superintendent approached me and asked me to drive one of the chiefs of police in another service home, indicating that he was interested in me sexually. And basically ordering me to drive him home. And
Wow.
I had my junior partner with me, detective, and I instructed him to drive that chief of police home, or to the hotel that he was staying in. So, the behavior was erratic. It was unsafe, and I could see, in different private parties that we had gone to, what was going on at the private parties with, again, this supervisor who was there, has been at our police service for, I think 50 some years, and he is still working there. And so I saw what went on at the private parties. I saw what was going on with the community members, what influence was happening. And I guess when I left the police department to take time off, they felt that I knew too much. And so they had nothing on me, which is much of what he was doing at the time. He would get information on people, whether they were cheating on their wives, whether they had done something that was corrupt. He would use those things to be able to ensure that he was in control of everyone under him.
Wow, I'm surprised hearing you because I'm Venezuelan, I'm Latin American, and this type of behavior is very common in Venezuela and mostly all the Latin American culture. But I didn't think in a culture like the Canadian that type of behavior could happen because this
No,
is
I didn't.
very
I didn't
common.
either. It's very, they hide it well. And unfortunately, Canadians have been blind to it for a very long time.
Wow, because I had the impression the Canadians are very, the respectful. That was my impression. So hearing you was like a what? So so this guy used this type of behavior and to try to have everybody under control. And that has been known. That has been any investigation about that, or it still is the status quo?
No, it's still the status quo. There was been people that have left the department because of it. I know quite a few. There's people that have police officers that have taken their lives because of it. When I left the department, it was like I was leaving a gang, a cult. I spent
Wow.
the next 6 years going to human rights court, but I had to flee my home. I was being stalked. I was being hacked.
Now you
Everything
are
was being.
in the same place that this situation happened, or you live in another place?
So I was off work. So I was in my condo, which was an 800 square foot condo. And when I was off work, as per doctor's orders, I was told by the medical nurse, the police nurse, that I needed to listen to the bosses and come back to work. And if I didn't, they would make my life worse. And this was a man's world. And didn't I know that when I joined the job, I better listen. And so um, from there, I really didn't expect what was going to happen. But from there, I was being followed. I was being threatened. My
So they were
family was
harassing you.
they were it was basically there was some investigations going on with the complaints that I had made. I had made a larger complaint under the human rights, and I had found a lawyer after looking for 20, 30 lawyers who would protect me, because a lot of them, they said they had a conflict of interest, but a lot of them didn't want to go against the
Yeah,
police.
yeah, 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 yeah. Of course.
And so it took, 20, 30 lawyers to be able to find someone, and talking to a doctor to believe me and to, support me against my employer trying to intimidate me. There was so much intimidation, so much harassment, so much collusion, negligence for 6 years. Again, I was fleeing my house. So one of the worst incidents was when I left court one day. So there was 30 officers that took the stand against just me. And I was on the plane, and I was sitting there, typing on my computer what had happened that day. And there was someone on the end seat, and a man had walked by me while we were in flight, and he was staring at me. And finally, I could notice him staring at me, but I didn't want to look at him. And I just felt it, right? I just felt it. And then he
So
left,
you
and the
can
man.
identify this thing undercover agent because maybe you have some ways to identify these people.
No, no, I
No?
felt like he was trying to intimidate and scare me. There was there
Okay.
was a man on the end side of the plane. He asked if I knew him, and I said no. When I got off the plane, he started following me in the airport. And then when the RCMP, I had reported it in the airport, the police, he had already left the baggage area and he took off. So, I was getting threats on my phone that my dad was going to be killed. And they were doing it in ways that would appear that I was losing my mind. They were adding phone numbers and names. And so music and songs saying burn in hell, all kinds of different weird ways to manipulate psychological torture on someone. I was followed walking my dog one day, and you go online and this person's stalking women. And I found like a card that he had given me, just all kinds of ways to make someone be afraid to leave the house, be afraid to contact police officers were afraid to speak with me, my old friends and colleagues, because they were hearing what was going on the inside and they were afraid it was going to happen to them next.
So they knew what was going on you. They were so they knew what
Uh,
was happening.
So I was in contact with a few of them and I was
Okay.
explaining what was going on, but they would hide to meet me. They were afraid. They would, we would go far away to meet in a vehicle, and they would tell me what was going on inside the police department. And they wouldn't say specifically, but there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of collusion between people and conspiracy,
Wow, that
the
looks
entire
like a Sandra Bullock movie. What you're talking.
It really felt like I was a prisoner in my own country. I had
Yeah.
gone to every police department eventually, and the government, and everyone just did not want to help me or my family, did not want to hear it and declined. And so I never knew if it was ever going to stop. They were,
And your
on our
dad was still. He knew what was going on. Your dad.
He knew what was going on, and he honestly, I think he just went into shutdown. I don't think he could really take on the how much it had just gone out of control. And I think he froze. I think he really was just so sad and in shock the entire time about what could I do. While I'm being in court against 30 officers who are saying that I'm lying, right? And I can't talk about what's happening. And then on the other hand, all this other stuff's happening, but it's only when I'm by myself. But I took screenshots, I wrote down things, I kept evidence. And at the end of it all, when you put it all together, it's very clear what was happening. They were trying to make me look that I was crazy. I really, it felt like I was a prisoner in my own home, in my own country.
Wow, wow. And let me tell you, I can understand your dad because a guy that is a senior officer that maybe he gave all his life to an institution now are seeing this happening. You can paralyze, you can really
Yeah,
paralyze
I
because
think he was paralyzed. And,
yeah.
we had gone through also personal things. His sister, had died. Unfortunately, God rest her soul. My niece was killed, unrelated. There was personal things going on, that were very tragic in themselves. And the way that it was impacting my brother, they were then going after my brother because I had fled the province and I was provinces away. They started going after my brother who was vulnerable. And there was just every day, every week for 6 years, it was a new traumatic experience that would not stop. And so
Wow.
going back to about your story, I really went into a different dimension spiritually. I had lost my faith in humanity as a police officer, seeing all the harm that was being done to people. And on the way to work, before I left work, I remember just starting to pray the Our Father to work every single day, over
Mhm.
and over and over again. And eventually, it's like being on your deathbed
Mhm.
and praying and praying for the world to be different, for there to be peace, for the pain to stop, for people to just not have this kind of leadership running our world. I would go into that dimension every time that I could and escape the prison that was in my mind and that was,
Mhm.
all the flames burning around me. And I found God again and heard the calling and kept trying to connect to what channel I needed to be on to be able to continue to survive physically, mentally, to be able to serve again, to be able to make the world a better place, and to listen to see if I could be of any support to God's mission on earth. Um, you know, learning more about Jesus, and learning more about different religions, Buddhism, and all the cultures around the world, and how, everything just is, and how I can be a part of the solution rather than to focus on the problem.
Mhm.
And it was my hope to be able to make policing a better world and the community more aware of officers and the more training they need, the more support they need, how we need to be connected and not separated. And so with that came, the movement Brave Inspires Brave is when I thought I was done, when I won my landmark human rights case.
Mhm.
And that was during COVID. When I thought I won and that things would change, I realized that nothing had changed. No one was held accountable for the corruption, the collusion. No one faced any of the horrific things that they had
What was
done.
the final legal outcome? So they was in favor
They
of you.
Yeah, I was found credible against 30 high-ranking police officers. That orchestrator of it all, he ended up not testifying, the last witness. He was sick for an entire length of time and could never take the stand. He had fallen and hit his head, is what he told, the courts from his doctor, and he never ever took the stand. And so we could not prove his actions within all of this collusion, basically, because he never took the stand and he's still working today. And so human rights could only implement so much. I did get a monetary award, but it was nothing compared to what I was going through outside of what I had just experienced in the workplace. And then the other side of it was implementing change within the workplace. However, I still hear today that it has not changed. And so there was so much work to be done that I kind of took a step back and said, I never wanted to be involved in anything again, but I heard again the message from God that I need to turn around and help. And I thought this is a really big ask, because I knew it needed to be a big ask um, to be able to move back and be able to work again after being told I'd never be able to work again, because my brain was so fried. It was so tight and fearful. I could not even speak. My body went 3/4 numb when I tried to launch my website for Brave Inspires Brave. I was so
Wow.
terrified. Every time I spoke out, I would receive a threat to my life, either through a phone call, a text message, online, um, every single time I spoke out. And so it took finding an amazing community and amazing leaders, what I was dreaming about through all this, to be able to find my voice again and to be able to create the movement Brave Inspires Brave.
Tell me something. That happened 6 years ago, correct?
So I won the human rights case. It went from 2014 to 2020.
Okay. Okay. So it has 5 years, and during these 5 years, they have come back to you, or they leave you quiet.
So they eventually, once I started connecting with entrepreneurs, coaches, leaders,
Mhm.
mentors, it was when I started to write a book, and I found an agent, and I went to meet with them at a coffee shop with a ghostwriter and an author to see if they wanted to help me write, get representation to write the book. I was followed to that bookstore, and they noticed the person that was following me, and then that person took off. But since that incident, around the same time that I started meeting other entrepreneurs and coaches in the business world, that someone was going to listen to me, um, that it finally did stop.
Okay. Maybe they saw that you went to another path and they decided to take you. Okay, because wow, I keep thinking that not only that the risky situation that, but now that they can continue doing that. But so you feel safe right now.
I do feel safe now. However, I really am mindful of where I go, and all those things. And I've moved away from the city,
Okay.
right? It was really easy for them to conduct this kind of behavior when they're running the city that I was living in, that I was working in. And so I had to flee my home. Eventually, I sold my home and I was away from family. But it was the safest move that I could do to be able to ground myself again in my nervous
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
But I learned so much holistic practices along the way. I went into spiritual practice, holistic, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, learned about the body and how to heal it. And so, it was really, like you say, like it's a destiny, if you will, to be able to be here and be alive every day is a miracle.
Yeah.
And you really believe, like I really believe that, and I want anyone to know that if they are in this space, that there are people like Jose, there are people like myself and others that understand that feeling, that will believe you, and
Mhm.
that want to make sure that you're safe and that you belong and deserve a prosperous life, and to follow your dreams and work in peace, and
Yeah.
to be able to, and to have that right.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow, what a story, my friend. I had a snippet of that story, but now hearing from you is a wow. Okay, so let's talk about, because you are talking about that you went to a very severe traumatic event in your life. So normally when you go to that, unfortunately you can have some PTSD event. Let me tell you, I'm going to be honest, because of the situation that's unfolding in Venezuela these days has been horrible to me. And I did my therapy session a couple of hours ago with my therapist, and I told her, Daisy, I feel overwhelmed what's going on when I see the TV. Today they released one of my closest friend that was a political prisoner. He had more than maybe 10 years. They released it today. This after I finish this recording, I'm gonna see how I can contact him. Eh, eh, so many things are happening, many things, and it began to pop up all those memories, because and she was telling me that one of the biggest challenges with the PTSD is that you can feel that you are okay maybe for years, but the mind always hides things that maybe you can have it very, very well hidden there. And there are some events that can trigger you. And she told me, Jose, is very understandable that you are beginning to, because it's not you, it's your mind that is thinking that the events are repeating again. So I'm saying this because to anybody that's hearing this, mental health is something really serious, and having the opportunity that to take care of yourself, having therapy session, having a therapist always is important, because unfortunately there is a big taboo with that. And I'm being a Hispanic. One of the big issues is that we, the Hispanic in men, don't talk about this, and they hide their emotion because we are macho men. So that's not true. That's not true. You can have issues. So let's talk about the post-traumatic growth and the post-traumatic stress. How it worked for you, how you handle your situation, and how is what you do with that today.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, in policing too, it's a faux pas, right? If you have mental health problems back, then it was, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your livelihood.
Mhm.
So, when you join policing, you're hired because you don't have mental health problems. And so I really didn't have any understanding of what mental health problems were until I took the time off work and my body started coming back down to have time to be able to process all the traumatic incidents that had occurred, that my body was just, trying to push away and my mind was trying to push away. So at that point, I didn't leave my house. I didn't go outside. I was being, so to speak, those triggers, those symptoms were showing up, being around environments where women were being sexualized, where I, felt that and seen that in movies, where I could, sirens, in the city would, elevate that nervousness
Mhm.
response.
Mhm.
Seeing a police car, it was like I would go the other way, or I
Yeah, you
wouldn't go
became paranoid.
outside. You just don't want to be reminded. It's the
Mhm.
reminder of the senses that really come back on really, really strong. And so, whatever that is for you, and they're never going to go away, but to be able to minimize them, it really, for me, it boiled down to, I spoke to a therapist, and I've never had spoken to one in my life for that entire 6 years. Every single week that I was going through that was every single week. And there was even one time that I was followed and intimidated on my way from that doctor's appointment, as well. So, but you have to find someone to trust.
Yeah.
And, I think Chinese medicine with acupuncture, they would check
Okay.
my organs, And that doctor, God bless his soul, he was from, he got his degree in Hawaii, and really a very experienced practitioner. He would, load my body up with all kinds of needles, like
Yeah,
front and
I
back.
have that. I know how it works. They begin to put
And
needles here,
yeah,
there, the ears,
yeah.
and all over.
And I wasn't a needle person, but it was recommended. And so I really, trusted that recommendation and went there, but again, had to pay out of pocket, right? So it's expensive. We don't
Mhm.
have that. I didn't have acupuncture coverage. Then there was massage, anytime that you can find ways to relax your body, whether that's a hobby, self-care, Ayurvedic medicine also works well, Chinese medicine. I started with, medication. It didn't work for me. It really, it woke me up in the middle of the night, and it was very scary, what the medication did to my mind. So I went the holistic route the entire time, and spent every extra money I could find on healing myself. And then reading was a big part of it too. When I didn't go outside, or audiobooks, and just listening to other people overcome the challenges that they have, that inspiration from others, and really, and being in gratitude. When I started having a gratitude focus,
Mhm.
I really didn't feel in a lot of those dark times that there was anything to be grateful for. I had lost so much hope and will to live. Suicidal thoughts came on often. Um, being grateful for the sky, the air, and the
Mhm.
sun is what I started with,
Mhm.
and kept saying that. And eventually, you start recognizing those small moments, and you start seeing it in other people, and someone opening a door for you, and just being grateful for those people and those moments, and understanding that our mind will be trained by what we focus on. And so I think I had to relive the trauma so many times because of court, lawyers, doctors. Like, we're trained as police officers, you only ask someone to tell the story once because you don't want to traumatize them. I had to share it thousands of times. And so my body constantly needed to be reset. The nervous system needed to calm down. Inflammation, we talk about nutrition, right? Nutrition's a big part of it, is to be able to put the right things in your body to make sure that it's not doing the opposite of what you need right now. When
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
going through hard
Mhm.
times,
Yeah.
nutrition is such a good foundation to be able to have. I didn't have that a lot of the times. I was living from place to place and in my car sometimes. Um, nutrition is definitely a good factor. There's so many ways, and mentors and coaches. I think the transition, a lot of it too, Jose, was I didn't know how to go from broken and not knowing how to rebuild myself and my career and my authority and my leadership, to finding an amazing mentor. And I'm going to give a shout out to SG and Shelly Simpson. And, I have so many other mentors now too. But that made the big difference of someone else saying, you can take that next step. And if I didn't have those mentors and those coaches, I wouldn't be here today to be able to say, I can become an entrepreneur. I can rebuild my career. It's not that I'm never going to work again. I just need the right people to work with us, right? People that have gone through trauma, they need to work with people who understand trauma
Yeah.
and understand how you can heal from it. If the person you're working with doesn't believe or understand it or have any experience with it, then it's going to be really challenging, I find. Um, medical professionals for years have told people you can never work again, right? And I was determined to find another way. And I believe everyone can work again and can rebuild their life again.
Yeah, hearing you, as you mentioned, you want to give a shout out to your mentor. I'm gonna give a shout out to my therapist Daisy, because I did a session 2 hours ago, and when we were talking, see this, I'm gonna share this with the people, because as I said, I have really been feeling with anxiety, with all what's going on, and you know Venezuela there began to release the political prisoner like 1 week ago. So it has been like a every day somebody, and I became anxiety because I have friends there. So I was, eh, look at the news who they were releasing it. So that situation put me with a lot of anxiety. So this morning when I was talking with her, I said, Daisy, I'm having no strong feeling with this. And she said, Jose, that is very normal. because your mind is revisiting events. So she made me do the exercise to close my eyes and begin to go and revisit the Jose that was in as a hostage, and come and talk to him, take him from the hands, bring him to the future, put him in my backyard, and tell him that everything is okay. And I did it. I did it because she began to walk me through that, and I began to see me in that prison. And I took the guy, I sit down with him, I hugged him, I told him everything is okay. We're okay. And then she asked me to lay down in the bed, and the guy went to sleep. And I felt so much relief after that. I felt I felt like a, so was something incredible, really incredible. And she told me, Jose, because you have still things there that that this situation triggered to you. So I'm telling here to the people that mental health is something really serious. And you said it very well. You need to put your mental health in the right hands. And the people that really, really care of this is very
Yeah,
important.
absolutely. And breathing and meditation and all those things. And I know what you're saying.
Well, ahorita, mami, ahorita, déjame que te... Okay, sorry.
That's okay. And I can relate to what you're saying because I for many years up until just recently I was having flashbacks every time I tried to speak and on podcasts or whatever I was doing, and I'd be talking to someone but in my head those flashbacks were coming, and then I'd get stuck as to what I was seeing rather than being able to connect with someone on a really deep
And
level
how
and
you
to
feel
being
today talking
present.
about this? You feel okay?
Yeah, I do feel okay. I feel good today. And it's just it's another milestone and a step for me to be able to have this conversation and not be seeing those. But again, like you said, mental health is it affects our physical health.
Mhm.
And that's what people need to understand is that when you can get your mind to a place of peace, your body will then align and do all the things and be healthy. And it's not going to be gone forever, and post-traumatic stress stays with us forever, but we can minimize the time that we're in that flashback when our body is doing things and inflamed. Inflammation is such a huge factor in it. So I kept going back to that place, and I still will go back to that place. But the more that we keep ourselves in the present, who is Jose today? Who is Heather today? And remind ourselves. I think it's so important to remind ourselves that we are not our past, and that was a conspiracy. I have to tell myself that, I didn't deserve what happened to me. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, stood up,
So we
knew
have that
all,
in common. I was in the wrong place in the right time.
I've seen too much. I knew too much. I had the wisdom and knowledge to be able to do what I did and to be able to carry that weight. And so when we can accept that challenge and understand that's just a part of the journey, and we have so many more lessons that are ahead of us. But staying in the present is going to, the more we can stay in the present is the best place that we can be. But I think a lot of it too, you got to have compassion and grace, right? If something
Mhm.
traumatic happens, it's just not going to go away. And we really need to see that not just in ourselves, but in other people, right? On their time, they will heal, and give them grace and compassion and kindness, and give that to ourselves.
And let me tell you something else that, well, for example, in my particular case, when I decided, because I'm hearing you and I was thinking in that when I came back, I began to do podcasts, a lot of things, and people were always asking me, don't you feel bad that they can become back the memories? And I said, no, I thought that for me was really therapeutic, there was really healing. I believe that has to do, of course, with the mindset, and has to do also with the way you decide to use this, because now you have a gift. It's a gift that you have today that you can use for the good, because now you have that gift that you can share with the others. And I saw your smile, so that means that you really believe in that. Let's talk about that. What is
I
your
do.
opinion?
It is a gift. And when you can get to that state of mind to understand that it's a gift, um, you've overcome a lot and understand that we're all will receive our gift in life. There's could be one, there could be multiple times, but this is your gift in life. This is your purpose. This is what you're uniquely and authentically able to share with the world. And that's the way I see a gift. And so as much as I thought policing was my purpose, there was a higher calling. And now this is actually what my purpose is, unbeknownst to, the 20-year-old me or the 30-year-old me. And so when we can start to understand what that gift is and have perspective and, step away from it. If I was seeing myself or as someone else, what could I see was the gift in that, and just remove ourselves as the one that is taking it personally and try and see what the bigger picture is. I think it's really helpful. And so being able to focus on what your gift is. And for me, it's just showing up and saying, I'm going to keep going despite everything that's happened. It's you talk about men's mental health too. It's really important because men, this was not something that was in society to be able to talk about emotions. Women talk a lot about their emotions, but for men, it shows up. For women, I cried for 3 or 4 years straight every second day when this was happening to me. And for men, the response is anger.
Yeah,
The brain can't hold so much stress and it doesn't know what to do with it. And
yeah.
so, um, the more that we carry, the harder it is. And when we can share that with others and not have to carry it by ourselves. I don't want men to have to carry all that they're carrying. Um, I want them to be able to open up. My father was very quiet. He
That
carried
was
so
that,
much.
that was the way he's responded, because this is
That's the way
the
he
other.
responded. That's
Let me
right.
tell you, when I came back through my captivity, we were six guys, and only two of us decided to talk. Me and another guy that he became like a human rights advocate, and he's all over the place talking about human rights. And he's been in the Congress, in the UN, wherever. I decided to do more this type of leadership things and that. But the other four went totally silent. They disappeared. Literally disappeared. And I respect that, because this is the way they decided to handle. Everybody handled the situation different way. But you mentioned two things that for me are very important: the faith and the purpose. Because when you have the faith, you believe that there is a higher calling, and when you find the purpose, you find your passion. So, do you think that today you find your purpose in what you're doing?
Yes, I do. At first, it was it was confusing. I couldn't speak. My body was shutting down. 3/4 of my body went numb. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have a network or a community. I had lost all my professional connections. I had no colleagues to give me a reference. The chief of police said, you need to come to me if anyone's going to give her a letter of recommendation. So I didn't have anything in place to say that this is going to be successful. I had the word, the intuition from God to say, this is where I need you to go next. And because it sounded the same intuitionally as what it did to stand up against the police department, again, really didn't understand why I was in that position. I believed in it and I trusted it. And I was given certain signs, intuition, what I felt was from God to say that, every so often there'd be a message and then I'd wait some time and then I'd see the sign, the answer to that message, or what I was told would happen, and then it would happen. And so I kept knowing that I was on that right path once those things would happen. And so eventually I knew that there was a time when I wasn't going to see anymore, but I was just going to have to follow all of what I had been shared with me. And
Uh,
so as I continued to build, Brave Inspires Brave and go through the movements and go through the vision that I had, it eventually, grew into where we are now internationally, and just being able to honor that feels like that's what my purpose was to honor that
So
channel.
your movement today is membership.
So our movement today, it's about community.
Okay.
It's about being a community of leaders in the world internationally that understand what it takes to go through adversity, to go through challenges, to support people. Very similar, I was reading about with your nonprofit too, right? Is understanding that people need that support. They need that community. And so we do have a membership right now, a gold membership, which is a monthly meeting that we have for our members, where we have expert speakers come on and talk about different topics. And then we also have the podcast that I host, where we share, various resilient stories, Brave Inspires Brave stories that will inspire our readers, our listeners in our community. And then we also had a magazine come out. And so eventually we'll be able to have another magazine. And, it's, I want to do this together. It has always been, the vision has always been to combine forces, so to speak, around the world internationally with all of those leaders who are brave and courageous and have high integrity.
After this, we have to connect on that. So where the people can find all of this? So where they can find all of
Yes, our website is www.braveinspiresbrave.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Brave Inspires Brave, or Heather McWilliam. Facebook, we're on, as well as Twitter and Instagram.
Okay. So Heather, another question, that because now I feel that passion in you. So and you're doing something great, because now you're taking care of people that have those invisible wounds, first responder, veterans, leader, families. What do you think is going to be your legacy?
That's a tough one. I haven't thought about what the legacy is. I've been living in the present, trying to get everything going.
But you having a bigger
Yeah.
vision. What is your legacy?
I don't want anyone to go through life alone. I want everyone to have a leader, a mentor, a coach that they can trust, and heal themselves holistically and find their purpose. I want to end suicides. I want to make sure people don't feel alone during these difficult, dark times in their lives, and know that there is light. I think my legacy is for everyone to know that there is light within them that carries them, and that if you connect with your higher spirit, the divine source, God, you will find your purpose. That's what I want my legacy to be. I want everyone to find their purpose and connect with their faith and believe in themselves.
That's a great advice. So anybody that's hearing this, please connect with Heather. Heather, we're coming to the end. This has been a wonderful conversation. So again, if somebody wants to connect with you, say again the way they can connect and what you can offer to them. This is, like I always say, this is your 5-minute pitch.
5 minutes. Well, if you want to join our gold membership, you can contact us at www.braveinspiresbrave.com, or you can email me at heather@braveinspiresbrave.com. And, see if you want to join our community, or maybe you want to partner with us or collaborate with us or sponsor our podcast too. We're always open to having, joining forces and seeing what we can support one another with, and making the world a better place, a braver place. And so I really just want to make sure that everyone knows that they're welcome. It's a really big part about life, is that I was so shy and introverted, myself, even as a police officer, but then after becoming, a victim and a survivor, I didn't know how to be in the world, and I didn't no longer knew how to be myself. I just want everyone to know that if you join our community, you are most welcome to share in all the things that we offer, and we want you to succeed. That's the biggest message, is that we want you to succeed, and we want to meet you exactly where you are. And new leadership opportunities and post-traumatic growth is absolutely possible.
Well, this was a beautiful conversation. So if you found interesting this conversation, please go to the episode, subscribe to our podcast, and share it. And again, if you want to contact with Heather, I'm going to leave here the links to her wonderful movement and to her podcast and everything she does. Heather, thank you for being here. That has been a wonderful conversation.
It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much, Jose.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.
Welcome to Building Resilience. I'm Jose Pereira, your host. This is the place where true leaders are forged, where stories of adversity turn into lessons of strength, and where faith, courage, and resilience come alive. Each week we bring you voices that inspire, challenge, and equip you to lead with an unbreakable spirit. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement.